The Democrat mayor of Oakland says the Defund the Police movement is hurting their ability to fight crime. What a shock. That's what we're going to be talking about today on the Sovereign States. Welcome to the Sovereign States. My name is Brian. Appreciate you checking out the channel. If you like what you see here, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll know when I'm posting a new video. Let's get into the topic of today, which is the Defund the Police movement. So the movement's not exactly working out very well, particularly in these large cities. See, the large cities is where most of the crime happens in this country, and that makes sense. Because of the density of the population, it's easier for criminals to hide their activities and so on and so forth. That's why the mafia thrived in places like New York for so long. But crime is now surging due to probably many factors, one of which is the pandemic we're dealing with. And the Defund the Police movement is not helping at all. No one should be surprised by that. But the Democrat mayor of Oakland, Libby Schaaf, is now actually saying it in public. She said, and this is from the Daily Wire. Oops, let me go back up. Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, Democrat, warned during a CNN interview on Monday that the far-left Defund the Police movement was hurting the abilities of cities to attract and retain police recruits, which she says are badly needed to combat a surge in crime. Well, gee, you think so? You think you might need police to deal with crime? Who would have thunk it? The big question for you, and this is a quote, the big question for you, Mayor, as well as mayors in other major cities, because these endings are happening in many cities now, is what does comprehensive mean, and what is the solution, and so on and so forth. This is on CNN. Kate Bolduan, I think, on CNN. Now, here's what she said. Let me be clear. Oakland needs more police, Schaaf said. We have been impacted by staffing reductions. COVID interrupted our recruitment and training processes. Yeah, I'm sure that's the problem. And the defund rhetoric is challenging our ability to attract and retain recruits. I can't imagine why anyone would not want to be a police officer in this climate. I mean, why in the world would anyone think twice about being a cop? I'm actually a little shocked that we still have cops left in these cities. And we know that it's not unique to Oakland. We want people to be proud of being in this service to our community, and we are going to be staffing up. No, you don't. Well, maybe she does. Maybe Libby Schaaf does. But the Defund the Police movement, the left wing of this country, they don't want these people to be proud. They don't want police at all. They've been calling for abolishing the police. And when they say abolishing, they mean abolishing. Now, that's not all of them. I get it. Some of them are just talking about reimagining public safety, whatever that means. She added, "This that is a necessity at this moment where we are with our crime in this season." Well, no one could have seen this coming at all. So this should surprise exactly 0 people. The breakdown that we're seeing in our society for a lot of different reasons, and this has been going on for longer than the past 2 or 3 years. It was just accelerated during the Trump presidency. What we're really seeing here is the breakdown of the civil society, unfortunately, because we have lost all of our shared philosophy, principles that unify us. I mean, you could have a pluralistic society like ours, an extremely pluralistic society like ours, as long as there's some things that we all agree on that undergird our society. We can all get along together if that happens. Well, we've lost a lot of that. We've also lost, a lot of our faith, a lot of our religion, and so on. That also doesn't necessarily help. And that has caused this breakdown. So you're going to see the effects of that more in major urban areas and cities than you do in rural areas, due largely just because of the density of the population and the higher level of diversity that you see in urban areas. particularly diversity of opinion and viewpoint and principles and ethics and morals and so forth. So removing law enforcement at a time when we're already under so much strain due to the pandemic and things going on in the economy, that's only exacerbating the issue. So the reduction in funding, which reduces the amount of staff that they can actually hire and retain, along with the psychological damage done to police officers or people who want to be police officers when all you do all day is crap all over the police, who would want to be a cop? And it's not a surprise that they can't find people to fill those roles. The other thing, too, these defund the police folks, these abolish the police folks, and I'm not talking about people like Tim Pool, who are calling for the abolishment of police for different reasons. I'm talking about the people that just hate police, they hate law enforcement, they think it's unfair or racist, and they want to just abolish the whole thing. These are not serious people. And the reason they're not serious people is not because they're wrong that there are problems with policing and law enforcement. Of course there are. Okay, these are human institutions filled with flawed human beings. There are going to be problems. Nothing is going to be perfect. So they're not wrong about that aspect of it. But they're not serious people because they don't really have any solutions. Catchphrases and narratives and empty platitudes are not a solution. They're not a strategy. That's exactly what they are. They're just empty. It's hollow rhetoric. The question that I would always pose to these folks, if they were to ask, is what happens after? So you want to defund the police. You want to reimagine public safety. You want to abolish law enforcement. Well, what happens after? What do you want to put in its place? You have to have something. Okay, unless you're an anarchist, which maybe some of these people are. What do you put in its place? What is your strategy? Give me the details. Write it out. Tell me exactly, point by point, how you would do public safety. How would you fund it? What would be the processes, the mechanisms? Who would fill those roles? How would it work? I want all the details. Don't hold anything back. Give it to me. And then we'll see. Maybe you'll have some good ideas that are worthwhile, worth pursuing. Great. But they never do that. They never actually tell you what they want to do. I don't think they have a clue what they want to do. They just want to get rid of the police. So this reimagining law enforcement, that's what they always say. Reimagine. You should support so-and-so because they want to reimagine law enforcement. What does that mean? That's just an empty trope. That's all it is. They never actually give you any detail about what that means. And frankly, I think it's because most of these people have no clue what they're talking about. They don't really have any ideas. They don't really have any strategies. They have politics. And politics makes people stupid. It makes people believe stupid things, do stupid things. Yeah. So I want to show you something. I pulled this up on Pew Research. This is crime statistics for the past, since the 90s, I guess. It says here that using the FBI data, and just so you know, these statistics aren't necessarily 100% reliable, but they're the best we have. So there you go. Using the FBI data, the violent crime rate fell 49% between 1993 and 2019, with large decreases in the rates of robbery, 68%, murder, non-negligent manslaughter, 47%, aggravated assault, 43%. Meanwhile, property crime fell 55%. We were on our way. Things were moving along nicely in terms of the decrease in crime. That's good. That's welcome. Now, there's been some disruption due to a lot of things, particularly the pandemic. But this surge in crime that we're seeing doesn't have to be a permanent thing. We were on track to continue seeing decreases in crime. But if you want to just completely blow up policing and replace it with, I don't know, some fairy tale or fantasy, then crime is just going to shoot right back up. And that's not what we want, folks. We really do not want that. Now, the other thing that I find so funny about the people that are really pushing this, particularly prominent people, okay? I'm not talking about people, the Twitter mob and all that. I'm talking about people in positions of authority. They always find money to protect themselves. Isn't that odd? And it's a lot of times it's the police protecting them. The people that they appear to dislike and abhor so much are always there to protect them. How does that happen, I wonder? So, for example, how about this Defund the Police candidate for governor in New York? Now, I don't know anything about this guy. He's probably a decent guy. I don't know. Okay? But he has a New York Police Department detail to protect him. Why? Why should he have a detail when he wants to defund and reimagine policing? Well, then why are you using the police? Shouldn't you be scared of them? Shouldn't you be afraid for them to be around? That's interesting. He also lives in on a military base. Apparently, this military base has some civilian housing, very luxurious, right on the waterfront, a lot of amenities and so forth at a kind of a steal compared to the pricing of similar residences in the area. Now, I don't care much about that. I don't really have an issue with him living there. I mean, he got a good deal on a place. Great. Go for it, you know. But it is hypocritical that this guy has a NYPD detail when he doesn't want other people to have the NYPD. He wants to defund them. Okay, now, again, I don't know the details of this guy. It's interesting that that this guy uses an NYPD detail when he's talking about defunding the police. Same thing with the squad, the great old squad. AOC, Ilhan Omar, Cori Bush spent nearly $100,000 on private security last quarter. Oh, how wonderful for them. It's so great that they don't have to spend a dime of their own money to get protection for themselves, but they want to defund the police, which normal people, you know, us peasants, us peons, can't afford to have our own private security, but they can. But of course, they're not having to pay for it. It's us paying for it for them while they go around and crap all over the police. How delightful. Yeah, that's not hypocritical at all. Now, the funny thing is, Cori Bush, and this is according to CBS, and I saw part of this interview, she actually said the quiet part out loud, which I appreciate her for doing that, for saying exactly what she thinks. Okay? When she spent $70,000 on private security. Now, they say while continuing to push for reforms to funding for police departments. Okay, what a pleasant euphemism. Push for reforms. No, she's trying to demonize the police and abolish them altogether, cut their funding, and so on and so forth. So they asked her about this. And Bush's response is, they would rather I die? You would rather me die? Really? Seriously? Come on. Nobody wants anyone to die, but that's the whole point. Okay? Most normal people want the police to be available and very responsive in the event that they're in a bad, life-threatening situation. She actually had the audacity to say, you want to see me die? No. Don't be stupid. Nobody said anything like that. You crazy person. You know, because that could be the alternative. No, it won't. Not necessarily. And if you have the police around, then you'll have the same protection that everybody else does, which may help save you from a dangerous situation, or maybe it won't. I don't know. I mean, it's really incumbent upon us to defend ourselves, frankly. But for normies, you know, all of us, you know, unwashed masses, that's really all we have outside of our own self-defense. Anyway, so she says, I spend $70,000 on private security over the last few months, and I'm standing here able to speak, able to save 11 million people from being evicted. This was back during the eviction moratorium. And then she starts complaining about death threats and all this other stuff. Oh gosh, that is such emptiness. So now here's the quiet part out loud. All right. I have private security because my body is worth being on this planet right now. I have private security because the racist narrative that they drive into this country and the fact, blah, 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 blah. So what she's saying there is, I'm more important than you. I'm better than you. I'm so virtuous and noble and good and wonderful, and you peasants should be thrilled and happy that you have me around. So of course I need private security. I'm wonderful, and you're just gross. Get away from me, you peon, you plebeian. Ooh. That's what she's saying. And she said the quiet part out loud. You don't deserve protection. You don't need it because you're not important like me. You're not virtuous and noble like me. See, this is what my problem with these people. These people are so elitist and arrogant and narcissistic that they want to be the aristocracy. They want to be the nobility. They want a feudal system. Not maybe literally a feudal system, but that's basically what they're after. You know, the founders of this country blew up the feudal system, the landed gentry, and all that kind of stuff a long, long time ago. In terms of the foundational principles of this nation, the United States, and these elitists who want to be nobles never forgave them for it. They can't get over it. We got to go back to feudalism because we can't allow regular people to have a say. We can't allow those masses, the great beast, as Alexander Hamilton called us, we can't allow them to govern themselves or to be free. No. That is what Cori Bush was saying with all this nasty, disgusting rhetoric. So, I don't disagree that we need police reform. But we have to be a little more thoughtful about it. And we have to actually have an idea in place of what we want those reforms to look like and what policing is going to look like after we do it, particularly in cities. A lot of this has to do with better training. Police officers, you know, I knew a police officer in Texas. The guy would not sit anywhere in a restaurant where he couldn't see the door. That is not normal behavior. He was trained to be paranoid. And this was a good police officer. He's still a good police officer. Treated everyone with respect. Everybody said so. The people he arrested said so. But he was paranoid. Well, when people are paranoid, it's easy for them to, you know, make mistakes or not treat people the way they should, and so on and so forth. Also, a lot of times police officers act like bullies with this bullying swagger where they're just pushing people around because they know they can get away with it. And we, private citizens, are not allowed to defend ourselves against police officers. I don't know if it's that policing attracts bullies or policing makes them bullies. Either way, you got to get those people out. Nobody who wants to bully their fellow human beings needs to be in a position where they have the lawful authority to use physical violence to get their way. That should never happen. So having a way to weed those people out is of vital importance. Now, I don't know how to do that, okay, but there's got to be a way, and we need to figure it out. It seems to me, particularly in big cities where these police officers are dealing with hardened criminal elements quite often, they look at everybody that way. Every single person is a suspect. Everyone is a danger. Everyone is a violent criminal ready to attack them. That's the last thing in the world they should be thinking. Now, I know they have to be on their guard. I don't deny that, because there are dangerous people out there. But most people are not. So less use of force equipment, less use of force training, more how to police, not enforce. Sounds reasonable to me. Again, I'm not an expert. I don't know how we would do that, but that's the direction I think would be best. And then less militarization of the police. The feds need to stop giving these police departments money to buy tanks and, you know, helicopters and machine guns and stuff like that. That's not a good idea. Okay? You might need those things, particularly in big cities, once in a while, but you can have a specialized unit or units to handle that. Most of these police officers need to be just policing, getting to know the community that they police. They need to stay in the same neighborhoods. They need to learn about the people. They need to know the people. They need to get to know them. They need to be a helpful influence there, as opposed to just someone who shows up to beat down doors and drag people away. Now, there's been a lot of talk about social workers and so forth to deal with homelessness and addiction and so on. That's not a bad thing, but the police departments don't need their own social workers to do that. There are agencies they can partner with that exist that can do that. There's one in the city I live close to that could partner easily with the police department to help deal with cases of homelessness, with addiction, with people dealing with mental health issues that are at least in the moment a danger to themselves or others, where just 4 or 5 cops jumping on them is not necessarily the best thing. Maybe someone can go with police along with them, by the way, to try to help that person and get them someplace where they need to be to de-escalate and diffuse the situation that may be going on. I don't think that's a bad idea, but we don't need to fire half the police force and replace them with social workers. There are already social workers that can help police with these things, and I think that would be a welcome change as well. But in this time in particular, where we're dealing with so much stress and anxiety about the COOF, as the Quartering calls it, and all the other things going on, surely cutting police funding is not the way to do. You honestly expect positive change when you cut their funding? Would you do that with schools? Do you expect positive change with schools if you were to cut their funding? Probably not. And I doubt any of these leftists would do that. Surely not. So why do you expect any different in this regard? So that's the last thing in the world we need to be doing. I'm interested in your comments, what you have to think about this. If you have any ideas about police reforms that would be worthwhile, I'd love to hear about them. I'd love to learn about those ideas. Please leave your comments below. If you like the content, subscribe to the channel. Again, thank you for stopping by. This is The Sovereign States. My name is Brian. See you next time.